Welcome to episode 417 of the DFO Rundown, as always brought to you by Bet365. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Get in the game, use the promo code NATION for all the NHL, NFL, NBA, and more at Bet365. I'm Jason Gregor. We welcome in Jeff Marek. Jeffrey, how you doing?
I have a question. If you can surrender the floor for 2 seconds, I have a question for you, Jason Gregor, and it is this one. Is Vancouver the new Cole Harbour?
Vancouver the new what?
The new Cole Harbour. Connor Bedard, Macklin Celebrini, they're the new hotness. The 5 minutes ago was Sidney Crosby and Nathan McKinnon. Is Vancouver the new Cole Harbour? I surrender that question to you, Jason Gregor.
Well, there's potential there, but let's, Sidney Crosby's funny. He's 38 years of age and he's still hanging around the top 10 in scoring. So, you know what? I will say, like the young players, maybe they're in their infancy of becoming a hotbed of top talent. But obviously, hey, Bedard, another great game today. He's off to a start. Celebrini throwing. Don't sleep on Leo Carlsson in Anaheim either. That guy's just a machine. True. So yeah, the young guns, Jeff. That's okay. I'll revert it with a question for you. So right now, as we're recording this Sunday night, Bedard's leading the league in scoring. Celebrini's second. Carlson's fourth. Now you have to pick one and defend why one of them has the best chance to finish the season in the top five.
Ooh. You know what? I'm inclined to go with Leo Carlsson, even though I think the best of the bunch will end up being Macklin Celebrini as far as complete players, the guy you want to build your franchise around. Although you can say the same thing about Bedard and you can say the same thing about Carlsson. I just love the way that this Anaheim Ducks team is constructed. I don't know that the San Jose Sharks can have the staying power all season long. Ditto for the Chicago Blackhawks. They're still in their infancy. But there's a lot of there at all the positions for the Anaheim Ducks to have a successful and fruitful season. So I'll go with Leo Carlsson. I'll go with that because I don't know they're going to stay on this type of heater, Anaheim that is, but I don't know how much of a dip, provided they all stay healthy, Anaheim's going to have. So for that, I'll take Leo Carlsson.
Okay.
What about you?
It's a great, honestly, I thought about it beforehand. I'm like, God, I don't know. Like, I like them all for different reasons. And I've been a proponent for a long time. I thought that Bedard got way too much unrealistic expectations heaped on him his first year. There was Connor versus Connor. I was like, are you joking? Like, they're not even remotely the same player. Like, give me a break. And, so that's unfair. And because he wasn't great right away, then, he's not that good. I'm like, no, you made an unrealistic comparison and then he didn't live up to it and it's his fault. Give me a break. So I'm kind of partial to saying, hey, I'd like to see him. I think Celebrini, you're right, might be the best two-way guy, but Bedard, like what he's doing right now, he's already got 11 more points than anybody else in his team. Like we're early in the season. He's like, I know people are talking about, Frank Nazar, and I like Frank Nazar, but Bedard here just the last week has been on an absolute heater. And so I'm tempted. I guess it depends on, like, they have different games. If I'm talking who has the best chance to be top five, I'm going to go with Bedard because I think he's the best pure offensive player of the three.
That is true. I just wonder what happens with a team like the Blackhawks. We've seen this all before, and ditto the San Jose Sharks. January rolls around, maybe you're out of the playoff picture. It's tough to get up for every game when you got to play 30, 35, maybe 40 empty calorie games. What does that do to you? Are you able to stay as crisp or as sharp as you need to be? And that's the main reason why I'll go with Carlsson on this one. I just think that he's going to be, he's going to contribute to a high-end team here that's going to compete for a playoff spot. Not that he's going to be carried by them, but he's not going to have those days where you really don't want to go to the rink again. It's like, ugh, we've been out of the playoffs for weeks here, and I got to go through 30 more games of this. I don't think Leo Carlsson is going to have that experience. Not so sure I say the same thing about Macklin Celebrini. Not sure I say the same thing about Connor Bedard. But as far as pure offensive brilliance, make no mistake about it, Bedard's the guy. Like in the offensive zone, Bedard's the guy. You're 100% right. Absolutely. I just think that Carlsson gets carried more by his team, which is a better team than the Chicago Blackhawks or the San Jose Sharks.
Yeah, that's true. The Ducks are definitely a better team today. No question about that. So we'll have to see where, who gets better as the year goes along. Yeah. But man, Bedard, what a run he's been on here the last few weeks for the Blackhawks, and Celebrini. And then you throw in Cutter Gauthier, and, the youth in the NHL is coming. And, there's always eventually a little bit of a change. Now, I'm not counting out McDavid or McKinnon or Draisaitl or the other guys who have been there all the time, but there's some competition. And I tweeted out on Friday, you had ages 19 to 39 in your top 10 scorers with Malkin in there at that time and Crosby at 38, right? Yeah. And then Scheifele at 32 and McKinnon at 30. But it's to have three guys who are 20 and under is great for the league, especially in markets where Anaheim, San Jose, and Chicago were all really competitive in the first decade of the salary cap era, right? They're very competitive, all of them. Now, the Sharks, unfortunately, didn't win for them. Penguins won a few times. The Ducks won once. And the Sharks had the best record for 20 years almost, for most wins, all that stuff. But they were unable to get it done. And so it's been a long time. And the San Jose's not there yet. Neither is Chicago. But Anaheim's the closest, I think, as a team to getting back. And it's good for the league to kind of start to bring some teams back who have been at the bottom floundering.
True. We haven't actualized on this one yet. You look at anything in life, whether it's teams or human beings or, something you're manufacturing, it exists in two states, actuality and potentiality. And right now, the exciting thing, as good as Macklin Celebrini is, he's still existing in the realm of potentiality. Ditto for Connor Bedard. Ditto for Leo Carlsson. You mentioned Cutter Gauthier. I know it's been under 20 games, but I really, really want to say Matthew Schaefer too. But I know we can't do that unless he has one season at least under his belt. But they're still existing in the realm of potentiality. They're not even close to hitting their ceiling yet. And already early this season, all these guys are hanging in the top 5 in scoring. It's nowhere close to the changing of the guard, but I think you're starting to see the beginnings of it and how it's going to happen and who's going to be there. And that's exciting. And I'll tell you, the other thing that I was thinking about too, and it's going to sound like I'm picking on Nashville, again, and I guess I am. If you're a team like Nashville, and they're not the oldest team in the NHL, I believe the Winnipeg Jets are. But if you're a team like Nashville and you're looking at these young guys that are about to lead the Blackhawks and the Anaheim Ducks and the San Jose Sharks into the next part of their winning cycle, having gone through what they all went through, how are you feeling about yourself right now? The point that I'm getting at is, does that hasten along the idea of, what? We're closer to the bottom than the top. Maybe we need to start doing what Chicago, Anaheim, San Jose has done, because you're starting to see the proof here. I know it's painful along the way. Losing sucks. Seeing empty seats sucks. I get it. But you can see some big days on the horizon for all these teams. I just wonder what it does to a team like Nashville, who, double down on grabbing older players, double down on getting vets, and it hasn't happened for them. So what now? What do you do? They're not the only team that's facing that conversation, but the most obvious one maybe right now.
Well, you just look at the history. If the goal is to ultimately win, how many teams win a Stanley Cup without a top 3 pick on their team? I guess now the Oilers in the 80s, technically, didn't have a top 3 pick on their team, but they had Gretzky. So you would argue that I know WHA rules, yada, yada, yada. So that's an exception in a weird way. But they made some unreal.
Never subjected to the draft.
Yeah, so he would have been. But you look at, and they made some unreal draft picks in Messier and Anderson and Curry. And, Coffey was, I think, 6th overall. So he was the closest. But when you look at Nashville, they've only ever had one top 3 pick, and that was David Legwand in their first season of existence, right? They had Seth Jones, 4th overall. And, I would say the same thing about Vancouver and some of these teams is you have to be realistic about what your team is and what your team is going to be in the future. And you can have some good pieces, but ultimately, you can sit in the murky middle. And could Nashville maybe get back and compete for a wild card spot in a year or two? Yeah, maybe. But they're not going to compete any higher than that. Just a fact. They're, as you mentioned, they're getting older. Right now, they just drafted Brady Martin, good young player, but he's on top 3 pick, and he might turn out to be really good. We'll see. But I think teams have to look at these other teams and realize that there is a fair amount of pain if you want to get to be a decade of being a competitive team and a real contender.
Remember the draft in Nashville, and Barry Trotz has taken a lot of criticism for what happened last summer and how it hasn't paid off. But I hearken back to the Nashville draft where, Nashville's hosting this thing and they want to make a big splash. And Barry Trotz is trying to get up into the top 4, talking to San Jose. And what he wanted was that 4th overall pick. Yaroslav Askarov's name was out there as part of a package. The guy that Barry Trotz was trying to get was Will Smith. Like, they've never had that type of player or that type of young player with that type of offensive potential like Will Smith. Obviously, the deal didn't go anywhere, but I just found it interesting that, on the one hand, when Barry Trotz took over, it was, we're getting younger. We're going to do this through the draft. We're going to build up with draft picks. I'm going to try to make this move with San Jose. Going to try to get Will Smith in here. And then that turned into, we're going to double down. We're going to re-sign UC Saros. Going to bring in Brady Shea. We're going to bring in Marchessault. We're going to bring in Stamkos. But for a hot 5 minutes there, Jason, Nashville was thinking, we need to get younger here, and we need to get a piece of some of these young guys that are coming up.
Yeah, but and guess what, Jeff? If you have a plan, you have to stick to your plan. And your plan can't be a year-by-year plan. And they reverted from their plan, and now you're seeing it. And their most tradable asset is UC Saros. Let's make no mistake. But God, the Edmonton Oilers might pay you whatever you want almost to get him at this point. They're so desperate, I think, to get a goaltender they can rely on. Their coach's response suggested that maybe, they're reaching that point. But I just think Nashville has to do a deep look internally to say, okay, what are we and where are we going?
I don't disagree. And with, every loss, and look, I'm not saying that these guys have quit. These guys are still trying. There's a lot of pride with a lot of these players, and this is really stinging someone like Steven Stamkos. This is uncharted waters for his career. This was not the plan. The other thing I was thinking about the other day, was 2 years ago when Jonathan Marchessault decided that he was going to sign with the Nashville Predators. The other team that he was close to signing with were the Anaheim Ducks. And I know ifs and buts were candies and nuts. We'd all have a Merry Christmas. But I just wonder if, Marchessault is looking at, what's happening with Anaheim here and saying, you know what, I could have been part of this. I know it's tough, and you can't, hindsight is 2020. We all get that. You make the decision you make. But I always wonder when players make a decision to sign with a team, and the team they said no to ends up going on a heater like Anaheim is right now, and is the new hotness around the NHL. I just wonder what sort of, goes through someone like Jonathan Marchessault's head through all of it.
We've heard of buyer's remorse. You could have signer's remorse in that case. No question about it, for sure.
True.
We are recording this Sunday, but tomorrow, Monday, of course, is the Hockey Hall of Fame day. And I will say, I think there's a valid point to be made in the NHL that you could maybe only play one game that night if they wanted to. They have the Hall of Fame game, but even then, I'm not certain you need to have one. I know, the NFL has it, but they have the game at a different time of the speeches, so you'd have to figure that out, because I think to honor them all, I think if I'm playing in the league, I'd kind of want to listen to Duncan Keith. And like, I love the speeches all the time. And, to me, everybody has a different tale, whether it's, McGillney, and unfortunately he's not there, but, you look at that class and all the people that are in it, and Thornton and McGillney and Keith and Zdeno Chara, and then Brianna Decker and Jennifer Botterill and Jack Parker and Daniela Savaggio. I just, to me, that's where I come out. I would like to see them kind of have fewer games, at most one, maybe the one game in Toronto, and that's it. And maybe for that special day, you make it an afternoon game, and away you go, or move it to a Sunday or something that you could consider doing. But this class is a pretty, deep class, especially, the NHL guys, no question about it. Those were kind of 4 no-brainer. I thought McGillney was a long time overdue, so I'm happy to see him get in. But Thornton, Keith, and Zdeno Chara getting in on their first time, Jeff. No, there's really no. Sometimes there's people saying, "Oh, why is this guy in, or why is that girl in?" There's really not hearing any of that this year.
Not at all. This is a deep one. This really is. Jennifer Botterill. This one's probably long overdue. One of the most decorated women to ever play the sport. Brianna Decker was just tremendous, and really popped for, I think, a lot of people when she was a standout at Wisconsin. I'm always curious about which players who get in, or builders who get in, open the door for other people. You know how, like, when Pavel Bure went in, all of a sudden I was like, okay, you know what? Bure's in, so that opens the door for Eric Lindros, right? It's like, because if you're weird about the stats, I mean, I always look at peak performance, and if you're the best in the world as a peak performer for 1 year, 2 years, whatever, to me, that's good enough for the Hockey Hall of Fame. I just wonder, like, Jack Parker is a no-brainer. And Jack Parker had a lot of people lobbying for him, just as I understand there's a lot of people lobbying for someone else who I think and hope should get into the Hockey Hall of Fame, and that's Red Berenson. For not just what he did as far as, like, being the college player that went to the NHL, but also what he was able to do with Michigan and college hockey, and how he promoted, how he graduated players. And Zach Hyman will still sing praises to Red Berenson, as will all of his players, many of whom have aged out and are now coaches around the NHL. I think of, like, Brian Wiseman, for example, the San Jose Sharks, winning this insane power play everywhere he's gone. His power play's been great, and a lot of that is Red Berenson as well. It's a really deep, it's a deep class. Speeches, I mean, listen, for me, I'm the same as you. I want to hear the speeches. I can't wait to hear Joe Thornton's speech. I think maybe my favorite speech I ever heard was Brett Hull, when he started talking about, like, beer leaguers, and not talking about everyone outside of the NHL. It's like that moment where, like, here's a guy that's going into the Hall of Fame, and he's talking about beer leaguers. This is amazing. But I got a question for you. Now, the Basketball Hall of Fame does this, but I got 2 ideas I want to float your way about the Hall of Fame. One, as a way to spice things up and make it a little more different, especially for hockey, which is, as we all know, a team sport. Hall of Fame is interesting. It's it's a celebration of individuals on a team sport. How would you feel if the Hockey Hall of Fame, and you don't have to do it every year, the Hockey Hall of Fame put in not just teams, but we're the first Hall of Fame to put in games? Like, games that move the game forward, games that will live in our minds forever for various reasons. Some of them political, like the 1969 World Championships with Czechoslovakia versus the Soviet Union. Others were just great moments that helped pop a country, like the Miracle on Ice. Others you would consider maybe the birth of international hockey, and that would be the 72 Summit Series. How would you feel about putting teams in, and also individual games?
Teams, I could have a conversation about, because they're, it's ultimately, it's a team sport, and you need depth at different positions. And, sometimes you'll need a guy in your fourth line to contribute a massive goal. Hi, Darren McCarty for the Detroit Red Wings that everybody remembers. And, there's different guys around that have done that at different times in their careers. So that games, I would have very little interest in, to be honest. I don't know how you'd like, what would be the ceremony for it, number one. But number two, I'm like, games are something we remember, and they're awesome. They're unique, and they're meant to kind of be folklore that you talk about and maybe research, and you replay them now. You can find anything you want almost on YouTube. And so that's probably where I would keep it. I wouldn't have games in, but teams well, you like, I know in lots of like provincial Hall of Fames in Canada, you have teams in, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And so that wouldn't shock me if they ever did it. The challenge would be, you know what, when you do to kind of catch up, there's lots of teams now that like the 5 in a row Canadiens, right? How many guys are alive now? You'd put them all in. You'd probably have to have like 1 year of catching up and putting a lot in, and then be very strategic about it. Because my concern is we start to get too many in and it waters it down, right? Like I know in our society now we're teetering on like the whole, I see it all the time at tournaments for kids. It's a participation ribbon and it bothers me. And you know what? The team who, hey, guess what? We signed up in the tournament, Jeff. We lost all 3 games, but we still got a medal. Why? Why do we need them? First of all, it's a waste of everything. The medal means nothing to the kid. I can tell you that right now, having coached kids, that medal means nothing. They didn't earn anything other than, the team paid money to go in the tournament. So why is everybody doing it? It's this, well, we don't want to leave anybody out. No, because the kids don't care. It's a bunch of adults who are like, well, little Johnny or little Sally are going to be upset that they didn't get a medal. Give them a gift bag with a chocolate bar and something else, and that'll be just fine. Right. So I'm probably more on I'd like to be stronger to limit the amount of entries than have too many.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think of like hockey always traditionally has followed. It hasn't led. Like that's my only thinking behind this. How can hockey do something that leads? How can hockey do something that is first? How can hockey challenge the way we think about what belongs in Hall of Fame? Like I'll tell you what. Here's another one for you. I think there's some goalie coaches that should go in the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I've heard that one. I know Kevin Woodley's talked to me about it a lot.
How they've changed the game, how they've completely changed the way that, like, how many times have you gone back? How many times anybody watching and listening to this right now gone back and looked at games in the 80s, the 70s and said, man, they really didn't know how to play net, did they? How come it took them 100 years to figure out how to play goal? Like you saw like the beginnings of like the Butterfly with Glenn Hall and then Tony Esposito, but it really didn't hit its like crescendo or zenith until Waugh met Allaire. And then the position changed. Like I think those people, goalie coaches that move that position forward, belong in the Hockey Hall of Fame. Not just the coach that stands behind the bench and gets the ring and gets to make the speech, but like you've really done something, because goaltending, I mean, listen, you know more about other sports other than hockey than I do, but is there a position in all of sports that has changed as radically in the last 25 years, more so than goalie in hockey?
Yeah, the only one I would think of was, for a while, like in the NFL, the running back used to be everything, right? And now running back, obviously Jonathan Taylor, anybody who follows the Colts right now, the guy's actually pressing to maybe be an MVP. But for the longest time, running back was so responsible and respected, and it was a one-man thing. And now there's 2 or 3 and there's third down backs. And so that position's actually probably has been minimized. So that would probably be a bad example. It's not really a comparison, but it's changed a lot in how it's viewed, that position, over time. But you're right. Like the goalie, when people watch the old film, guys were stand-up goalies. That's what they were taught. Could they have played butterfly? Probably, but they were never taught to. So how would you know? Right. And so, yeah, it definitely probably none that I can think of that would compare to it in that regard.
Yeah, it's just like I want, maybe this is me just wanting something. I just want hockey to be a leader in something. There are some things that hockey I've always felt, does better than every other sport. The jerseys are the obvious one. And I just always hope that this sport can lead somehow. And maybe it's just even as simple as entertaining the idea of what we put in the Hall of Fame. And again, this isn't just NHL. I'm just talking about hockey in general. It's the Hockey Hall of Fame. It's not the NHL Hall of Fame. I just like the idea of mixing. And maybe, listen, Jason, because I'm with you, I'd be concerned about overdoing it. Maybe you do it every 5 years, but at a different time. Like not on the same night where the players and builders are going in. Maybe this is done, I don't know, February. I don't know, like pick another month, and the Hall of Fame gets 2 shots at promoting itself. But you don't do it. But you don't do it every year. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just lobbing out ideas here as we chat on a Sunday night for a Monday drop.
The team one I'm into. The rest you'd have to really sell me on. The team one
You're not picking that up, eh?
I could get behind. I am interested in Joe Thornton's speech, a guy who, and Zdeno Chara, very different personality. Even Duncan Keith. Duncan Keith definitely kind of more maybe the serious one. Joe Thornton enjoyed the game as ultra competitor, but he loved the game. Like he would hang out with young guys later on in his career, and the young guys were just like, it's hard when you're 38 and 9 and 40 to relate to 20 and 21-year-olds, but he did it seamlessly, and the kids thought he was just like the greatest guy ever. And Zdeno Chara was such a unique leader in how he made everybody feel important on the team. He didn't want there to be like any sort of cliques and all rookies, or hey, if we're going to win, our rookies got to be treated just as, respectful as anybody else, and, all that. So yeah, I look forward to, it's funny, Botterill and Decker are kind of in different generations of women's hockey, and how that's really changed as well. So I always like the Hall of Fame, and I'm kind of annoyed because I got to work tomorrow night at the game, so I don't get to. Now I record it all, so it's fine. But it does, I'm probably selfish when I say I would like to have fewer games, so I could watch it and kind of be a celebration of the league.
I'd be in favor, because I don't know that the NHL should necessarily go completely dark on Hall of Fame night, but I do understand what you're saying. Maybe the compromise is you have a look at who's going in, and so you go like, all right, the Bruins aren't going to play, and the Blackhawks aren't going to play, and the San Jose Sharks aren't going to play that night. So fans where those players are most associated with get a chance to watch their players go into the Hockey Hall of Fame. How would that for the compromise?
Yeah, it's not bad. I just look at Mondays, and there's not many games on Monday anyway. So you know what? Just say, hey guys, this one Monday, we can have one game. Right? We still have a game, so there's NHL hockey, fine. Because obviously they have the ceremony in Toronto and all that stuff, and I get it. But and then you could even do that on the Sunday, to be honest. But I don't think the league's ever going to do it. They haven't done it to date, so I don't think it's going to change. So maybe it's a pointless argument, but it is something that I've noticed for sure. Now, some guys who are no-brainers when their career's over are going to be in the Hall of Fame. There was lots of them on the ice in Edmonton on Saturday night. McDavid, Draisaitl, McKinnon, Makar. Like those are 4 guys that I think most people would be pretty confident when their career's over are going to go in. But my goodness, the Edmonton Oilers, you don't lose 9-1 at home very often. In fact, it tied their franchise record for worst home loss. The Oilers have only won 6 of 16 games so far this season. Their power play is red hot, although it did go over 7 in that game, and that's kind of saved them some games. They look, how concerned would you be, Jeff? Or because Edmonton has had bad starts the last 2 years and still made it to the Stanley Cup final, does it lower it, or is it more magnified because of how they're losing this year?
I can't tell you how disappointed I was in that game, because I don't cheer for any teams. I just want to see a good game. And then listening to you and Rupper on the Friday pod, I'm just like, all right, all eyes are on this one, man. Edmonton, Colorado. This is the banger of the weekend. Clear the decks. I was in Kitchener on the weekend for my kids' tournament. All the parents are out, eating, drinking, all that. Like, I am parking it in my kids out playing mini sticks in the hallway. I'm just like, do not knock on the door. Do not call me. I can't wait to watch this game. It is going to be ferocious. And then Makar snaps in 2, and it's just off to the races. And it was painful by the end. It was just like, just make this game stop. So it turned out not to be a banger. It turned out to be kind of a disappointment. Unless you're an Avalanche fan, you really enjoyed it. I'm a big Gabriel Landeskog fan. Jason. So I didn't like it getting that. I'm still waiting for him to score that first goal in a million years in the regular season. So now he's had 2 taken away. I think you can only surf on the, well, you know what? We always have bad starts. So we can spin out of this here. We can right the ship. I think you can only surf on that for so long. It's a dangerous way to play. It's a dangerous vibe to have. Like, guys, don't worry. Roll the calendar flips. We're going to be fine because we're the Oilers and this is what we do. Man, that's playing with fire if you're the Oilers. Right now, this team doesn't look anywhere close to as good as the last 2 editions of the Oilers are. And that to me is frightening. Now we'll see what happens when Zach Hyman comes back. Obviously that's a shot in the arm. There's going to be some roster decisions that need to be made here if you're Stan Bowman. I'm glad you mentioned Saros earlier in the podcast today, because if I'm the Edmonton Oilers, contract be damned for UC Saros. We can't worry about that now for the Edmonton Oilers. You go and you try to find the best goaltender available, and you wait till Nashville finally says no mas, and it's time to get going here. But as far as concern, how concerned do you think Connor McDavid is right now?
Really I think he's frustrated. I think
really
he's frustrated.
Concerned. Really concerned here.
Yeah. Well, I think I talked to Connor on Friday, and before the game, it was my wife's birthday, so I wasn't at the game to talk post game, but there was some slight concern about his team, like, hey, they talked hey, we want to get quicker. Well, the Oilers are the second fastest team in the NHL by NHL edge after Colorado, right? They have speed, but speed doesn't matter if you're on the perimeter. And right now, so to me, the only good news for Edmonton is it's a collective team effort. That goaltending's got to be way better. Defense has to be their defense. They should have a better defense score. It's not playing very well. Their 5-on-5 scoring's atrocious. They're not generating any chances to me. And their coach, you got to start saying, hey guys, guess what? The net's not our enemy. We're going to have some drills and we're going to have a commitment to go to the damn net and have some people there. It can't just be, well, we'll wait till Zach Hyman comes back, because that's only one line. He's only on one line. He's not on every line. And, they're the only team in the league without a fight. There's games where they don't even need linesmen in their games because there's no scrums. Play with some damn emotion. So they got to look at every element of their team right now. Other than their special teams is fine. Power play is really good. Their penalty kill is actually being pretty solid. So, but their 5-on-5 play is junk. Goaltending, defense, forwards. You got a lot of guys who are not producing there enough. And you know what? Everybody has to have a role and an element on the team. And right now they got a lot of guys who don't have any element and don't have any role.
I don't know what I'm going to do if I keep watching players step over the blue line, do that little button hook move.
Oh, God.
Feed it to the point for an empty calorie shot.
Yeah.
How many times have you seen plays die?
Oh,
and it's over and over and over, Jason. I'm like,
well, and to do it with no one going to the net, Jeff. If you're the Panthers when they crash the net all the time, okay, I can see why you try it. But when you've got, let's go back to the point, man, and now we got guys, it's like the old adage, when a guy looks like he's getting in the shooting lane, Jeff, but he's really not in the shooting lane, but he makes it look like he's getting in the shooting lane.
Yeah.
Well, that's like Edmonton. Well, we're going to go to the net, but my stick will be in front of the goalie, but I'm off to the side. It's not. They gotta, and sometimes a complete ass kicking can be the thing that wakes you up. And so we'll see. It either does or it doesn't, because they play Columbus on Monday and then they're on another 7-game road trip, and they could be at the end of November in a real world of trouble.
You mentioned Darren McCarty earlier in the podcast here. I want to call back to something Darren McCarty told me. God, this is like 15 years ago. After he had, gone through and faced and battled all the demons that he's faced in his life and come out the other side. And I was doing Hockey Night in Canada's radio show on Sirius. And I said, how did you know when you hit rock bottom? And he said, here's the secret. He said, this isn't just true of people and substance abuse. This is true of teams. He says, you never hit rock bottom, because there's always lower you can go. He said, all you can do is decide to stop digging. He goes, every time I thought I was at rock bottom, I always got lower. I could still get lower. I just eventually decided to stop digging. And then he started talking about teams that he was on that just got worse and worse and worse. He goes, the only thing you can do is decide to stop digging and pull yourself out of it. So you're right. Like this is sometimes, and listen too, like not lost on anybody here. This is Saturday night, hockey night in Canada.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to, like everybody, like any hockey fan. I don't care if you don't have to be an Oilers fan. You don't have to be a Colorado fan to get excited about that game on Saturday night. Everybody's watching this thing and you're coming away with the same thing. A, man, Colorado's good. And B, what's going on with the Oilers?
Yeah.
So let's see if they stop digging. This is going to be a big week for them. This is going to be a big week.
It is a big week for them. You look at some of the other teams. As we're recording this, Nathan MacKinnon has leapfrog Connor Bedard. He's now leading because he scored 2 more goals in Vancouver. So he's jumped ahead of Connor Bedard in the scoring race. So, McKinnon's off to another great start. Him and Makar just absolutely killing it for the Avalanche. They got 1 regulation loss all season thus far. Linus Carlsson, though, did score a pretty sweet goal between the legs in that one. Yeah. I do want to shout out, Jeff, of all the like when we talk about, okay, the young kids have really come out and they've played really well. I thought last year was where I was like, okay, you know what? This guy, he surprised me with what he did. How about Corey freaking Perry at the age of 40 has 7 goals and 11 points in 10 games for the LA Kings since coming back from getting injured in preseason. Like he is looking, because a lot of people, myself included, like, ooh, that's a pretty expensive contract that he got from the Kings on a 1-year deal. And he is absolutely killing it again right now. He moved into a tie. He's now got 455 career goals. It ties him for 63rd with Fleury and Eric Stahl. He'll pass them. He's going to pass Alex Delvecchio. And the way he's going, he might score 20 goals this year. And if he does, he'll pass Patty LaFontaine on the all-time goal scoring list. Like another guy who late in his career don't need speed, but he's got a lot of will and he knows how to score around the net.
See, I love guys like Corey Perry. Like, first of all, nothing left to prove. No. Like here we are, talking about starting the show off by talking about the Hall of Fame. Like he just needs to retire, wait the 3 years, and he's going into the Hockey Hall of Fame. He's won everything. He's set his family up financially, all of it, but he still has hockey in him. Like he's been given every opportunity to quit, to stop. Yeah. Like why are you doing this? Some guys are just, wired different. Like this is my life. This is what I do. This is the cadence and rhythm of my life. And I still love playing. I don't care how old I am. And the question becomes, as we saw, Brent Burns playing last night, Ryan Suter hasn't technically retired yet, but, you look at Ryan Suter, Brent Burns, and Corey Perry. We're seeing Brent Burns and we're seeing Corey Perry. This is the legendary 2003 draft. I am always fascinated with the player who wins the draft, who is the last to retire. If you had to pick Corey Perry or Brent Burns, who wins the 2003 NHL draft? Because my money's on Corey Perry. My money is on Corey Perry.
Yeah, I'll say this. So Brent Burns is in unreal shape, and he can always skate, and he's so big and strong. I'm gonna go with Burns.
Really, eh?
Yeah, I just think he can. Like, how could you not take him on your team at this stage? Like he's playing great for Colorado. Fantastic for what you're paying him, what he's doing. Like it's phenomenal, right? And it's the
interesting thing about Burns is like him and Orlov really struggled last year in Carolina, and that is a really challenging way to play hockey, specifically for a defender, specifically in his own zone. And Orlov struggled, Burns struggled. That's why when he ended up going to Colorado, I'm like, I'm not so sure how this is going to work. But so far, he's looked fantastic. Like and again, like this is what I come back to. It doesn't make you a bad player, but there aren't a lot of players who can play there aren't a lot of players who can play the way that Carolina plays. Like that organization is really, really specific about who they bring into the organization. Like, you have to be able to play, especially with defensemen specifically. This is why, K-Andre Miller was a really smart bet by Eric Tulsky. Like, if you're a guy who can move his feet, has offensive instincts, can move the puck, is athletic, can think and react quickly, there's a place on the Carolina Hurricanes for you. If you're a defender that's just going to has mastered the art of, cross-checking someone into hell, it's probably not going to be a place for you with the Carolina Hurricanes. Like, it's an acquired taste to watch, and it's hard to play. It's really difficult, and it's probably especially more difficult, as I think this through, for an older defenseman to play, right? And maybe that's why we're seeing maybe a different Brent Burns than we saw last year with Carolina, or even the fans, and they loved him there, but even they were starting to get on him by the end in Carolina. But I'm happy for him. Great personality in the game, fun to watch. Look good again last night.
Oh, he's looked really good, man. It's hard to critique him. What do you quickly give me your thoughts on the Montreal goaltending situation?
First of all, watching Dobish break down in the dressing room was really hard to watch last week. I love the goaltender. I when I think of goaltenders and I think of like their mental stability, my favorite is another Montreal goalie, and that was Carey Price. Carey Price was an outstanding goaltender. To me, he was the most athletic goaltender of his era, which to me doesn't mean like windmill saves and stuff like that. It's like, how quickly can you get to position to efficiently stop a shot? And nobody was better than Carey Price. It's just fantastic. But the thing I loved most about Carey Price was, Jason, like after the game, he'd be interviewed and you couldn't tell whether, just by his tone, you couldn't tell if the Habs won or lost. Like, you could not tell. You had no clue. It's like, okay, I just heard a post-game interview from Carey Price, and I have no idea if Montreal won or not, because every interview he was just like so even. This like Zen guy, this Zen goaltender was so even through all of it, which I've always felt is the right temperament to have if you're a goaltender. Dobish has been like, listen, when Montembeault struggled out of the gate, he was the guy that kept them alive. I know where everyone's crazy about, Demidov, and Nick Suzuki's been tremendous, and Lane Hudson is Lane Hudson. But make no mistake about it, Dobish kept this team afloat when Montembeault struggled out of the gate. And I think a lot of us were looking at Montembeault and saying, like, you know what? I think Jordan Binnington will get the courtesy first start at the Olympics, but after that, it's jump ball, and maybe, because the underlying analytics were always great for Montembeault, according to ClearSight, Steve Alaket's outstanding service. And we all said, maybe Montembeault ends up. The last time we saw Canada in the Olympics with NHLers, we were talking about, Carey Price and Sochi. Maybe it's another Montreal Canadiens net minor this time around, and Sam Montembeault. But it was like, I don't know, like, when you saw the tears in his eyes after that game, like, doesn't part of you go like, someone help this guy? Like, just someone help him. He can't shoulder blame for that loss and be that emotional about it. I felt bad for the guy. I really did.
Yeah, it was. I don't. Hey, emotion's great. I have no problem with it. I'm not one of those guys like, oh, if you cry, it's a sign of weakness. Not at all.
No.
But you also have to have some emotional control at different times and be like, hey, it's rarely on one player, right? Bingo. And now we've seen lots of guys do it, right? It's lots of players will try to take the blame. Oh, it's on me, and it's a slippery slope, because if you start it's on me every time, then eventually it's every time it's on you, and that's not always the case. So usually, coaches will tell you. Now there's the rare one, right? If a goalie goes behind the net and misplays the puck, puts it on the guy's tape, okay, there wasn't 3 mistakes that led to the goal, but in a lot of cases there are. So yours is maybe the one that's most magnified, but. Yeah. I look at like Montembeault's numbers obviously they weren't going to stay where they were, I didn't think, but I look at even at Team Canada, like, man, Logan Thompson with every passing day, Jeff, if he's not on the Olympic team, like, I don't care if Bruce Cassidy doesn't like him, change your opinion. Guess what? In life, you're entitled to change your opinion. Hey, guess what? A few years ago, I didn't think that highly of him. Well, if you're that stubborn to be like, wow, didn't like him 2 years ago, so I can't like him now. Well, that's just ridiculous, because Logan Thompson right now is the best Canadian goalie in the NHL right now today, and it's not close.
Yeah. And great coaches for international events will park that. And I'll give you an example. If Steven Stamkos right now were at the height of his powers, okay, if Steven Stamkos had like 14 goals right now, and I was just like snapping it in, fountain of youth, all of it. You know who'd want him on the team? John Cooper. Yes. Even though those two in Tampa didn't always see eye to eye. They never let it spill out publicly. It was never a big deal, but there were, friction times between the two. Both are pros, both are elite at what they do. But if Stamkos was playing like that, John Cooper would say, yeah, that's the guy I want on my team.
Yeah, you have to. You have to.
Yeah, absolutely have to.
Yes.
And I'll tell you what, I'll tell you, here's the other thing about that. And Hockey Canada most recently has seen this in the last two World Juniors. Hockey Canada cannot play those games anymore. Hockey Canada as an organization cannot play the political favorite. This guy didn't go to this tournament. This coach doesn't like this goaltender. This assistant coach didn't like the way he had him and whatever. No. That has gotten Hockey Canada in such trouble for so many years that has to end, and they know it too. That has to end. And I believe, I keep getting told this, that is not going to be a factor for Hockey Canada at any level, whether it's World Juniors or whether it's the Olympic team. That there's not, because they can't play that nonsense anymore.
No chance. Let's bring in our boy Vic today, who is filling in for Pat Puff here on the rundown for another edition of Buy or Sell. Vic, how you doing?
Very well. How's it going, guys?
Good, man. Look at you in the Jays gear.
Yeah, I always do this for Tyler. This is all for Tyler.
Still in morning.
Yeah.
Turn the page, man. What's going on, Vic?
I can't. Not much. Shall we get going here?
Yeah, man.
Let's go.
All right. Buy or Sell brought to you by Bet365. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get in on the game. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. All right. Perfect. A lot of my questions here some of my questions are based on the Olympics and the politics of it. I think there should be 3 of these, but buy or sell. Team Canada will have at least 2 players under the age of 21 on their roster at the Olympics. Buy or sell.
I'll buy that. It'll be one of Celebrini or Bedard. And because I'm trying to will this into existence, and Jason and I talked about it, Matthew Schaefer as well. Always with one little eye to the future.
Well, as an 8 defenseman, he's kind of an ideal candidate as your number 8 defenseman. The odds of him playing are kind of low, but not impossible, as we saw last time at the Four Nations. So he's obviously played very well. And, you do have that experience and everything else. Now, some would argue and say, hey, I want the best guys, because what if 2 get hurt? I don't want to bring in a guy because I'm thinking he's going to help us in 2030. So there's that argument. But I probably have to buy, because the way Celebrini and Bedard, just the way those 2 are going, I think it's going to be very hard if both of them maintain by the end of or mid-December to be top 5, top 10 in scoring. And you got to remember, you got a bigger roster. So you got 14 forwards. So you look and say, are we really not going to bring both of these guys at this stage? So I will buy as well.
So, but you're saying that it would be Celebrini and Bedard?
Well, I think both of them, you could technically bring all 3. But
you can, absolutely.
I think because you have an extra forward and an extra D-man really on the roster, it opens up that chance more than it would. Okay. If it was 13-7, I'd be selling.
All right. Just as a second parter to this, has Matthew Schaefer not been one of the 6 best Canadian defensemen in the league this year?
Yes, he has, but how many games we're talking? Like, let's listen. No one wants the hype train for Matthew Schaefer to get cranking more than me. Greg's knows that, but let's
okay. Let him keep doing it. I guess.
Let me just see it more. Hey, Jason.
Yeah, he's played very well. I don't want to take anything away from him, but it's less than 20 games, right? Like if every year Montreal fans, we kind of joke about Mr. October, right? And every year he'd be great. And then it's different. Now if he continues to do this into late December, when maybe fatigue kicks in or not, and all of a sudden you're like, well, it's a non-factor. Because now I always like to use Drew Doughty. I know he was 2 years older, but still, I thought there was infinitely more pressure on the 2010 Canada team than there is on this team in 2026. There's lots of excitement because the Olympics are back and you just had the Four Nations, but there hasn't been Olympics since 2014. And it's not in Canada. Like they were in Canada after getting blown out in 2006, and they still played Drew Doughty. He played unreal. So if you can do it then, if Schaefer's worthy of it, then put him on the team. But I'm not ready to anoint him as a lock, but I did have him on my original roster just because I felt like he deserved it with 8 defensemen.
All right, let's move on to buy or sell number 2. The Montreal Canadiens are the best team north of the border. Buy or sell?
Like playing the best today. Yeah. Ooh, that's God. Well, the only team that's playing close to them right now would be Winnipeg. If I was looking at a team, and the Jets are what, 9-5. Yeah. And I'm still going to go with the Jets over Montreal because I like the Jets makeup. I think they're a little bit more consistent. I'll say Montreal's the most exciting team north of the border right now.
I will pick that up. The only thing that gives me pause about Montreal too is they've only played a handful, and probably not even less, maybe 3, maybe 4 teams that made the playoffs last year. Again, all you can do is play your schedule. I get that. This is not a criticism of the Montreal Canadiens. They've won the games they have to win, right? Even that opening night, they should have beaten the Toronto. They were the better team. Sorry, Vic. They were the better team. That should have been a win for the Montreal Canadiens going away. But it's only been a handful of games against teams that made the playoffs last year. That's the only reason why I would pause on that and default to what Jason is saying. And it's the Winnipeg Jets right now, just because of quality competition. But I don't want this to be a mirage. This is like a lot of fun. I want this kind of hockey to be rewarded. I just don't know what's going to happen when the quality of competition goes up.
So just for clarity, both of you sell on that one, but both of you would put them number 2 at the moment?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All righty.
Oh yeah.
All right, last one. I can make it a Leafs one because I'm a Leaf fan, or I can make it an NHL one. You guys decide.
You pick. It's your segment.
Your choice.
All right. Okay, we'll do the Leaf one because you let me choose. So he played his 1200th game today, and there's a lot of Hall of Fame talk. John Tavares scored goal number 503 today, and there's been a lot of talk about his Hall of Fame case. I believe there are only 2. Marek, you might know this because you're that historian. Is there 2 or 3? It's Bondra, Tkachuk, and maybe Verbeek, I believe, are the only 3 eligible that have scored 500 and not made the Hall of Fame at this moment. Patrick Marleau is on the list as well. So, John Tavares is a Hockey Hall of Famer. Buy or sell?
Greg's?
You know what? It's funny. A few years ago, I was like, man, I don't think so. He is going to have the numbers. I always, to me, Hall of Famer, I like to say, was there a season in their career or 2 where they are the top 5, top 10 players in the game? And I don't think he's ever been that. He's been incredibly consistent, though. So you can argue that, okay, maybe he was never top 5 or 10, but he's been really consistent for a long, long time. I think it'll help his case playing in Toronto, and whether that's right or wrong, I just think it does because people see him more. They talk about it more. He's a really nice guy, and I get all that. It shouldn't matter, nice guy or not. I know some people will disagree with me on that, but you never really know if someone's a nice guy or not. You have a perception. You don't 100% know, but I'm still not sold yet because he's never done it, so he's never going to be the best player in his game. So that's my one caveat is if he gets in, it's going to be later. Like, look how long it took Alex Mogilny to get in. And Mogilny had one of the greatest seasons in NHL history with 76 goals. 76. And he finally got in way later. And so I look at John Tavares and I'm like, never scored 50 goals, right? He hasn't had a season where you look and say, God, like this guy he was a guy to watch. He's been very good and very consistent. So I'm going to say no.
There is someone who I speak to on a fairly frequent basis who is in and around these discussions in the Hall of Fame about who gets in and why. And this person always reminds me, what's the name of the place we're talking about here? And I say, the Hockey Hall of Fame. And he says, okay, so what's the last word in Hall of Fame? I said, fame? He says, correct. And that's why, Greggs, I think you're right to bring up Toronto. Again, rightly or wrongly, everything gets blown up when you play in Toronto. If you want evidence of that, go look at the 1967 team and go look at some of the players that are in the Hockey Hall of Fame who, if they didn't play for the Maple Leafs, I got news for you. They're not going into the Hockey Hall of Fame. There is a feeling that the word fame is pretty important here. And the most recent conversation we had about that was around Jeremy Roenick and the Hockey Hall of Fame. This person always reminds me like that person's fame means something for the sport. If you're on the fence about someone, consider where they did it, what that meant for them, what that meant for the market, and by extension, what it meant for not just the NHL, but what it meant for hockey. So now Gregg, I'm glad you mentioned that because I've always got that in the back of my head now. The presence of the word fame in Hockey Hall of Fame. Rightly or wrongly.
I'd like to say that. How many forwards in the Hockey Hall of Fame, especially in the new era, because I'm not going to compare it to guys in the 60s, 70s when, the game was different. They didn't play as many games. But how many guys since the 1980s, when the league expanded to 21 games, are Hall of Famers who have never had a 90-point season and only had one 40-goal season? I'd have to go back. I'm going to go through them all. I'm going to guess 0. So that's why my answer is no.
All right. Well, my answer is yes because he's going to end with 600.
I'm on the fence. I can't get off the fence on this one. I have a bad podcast answer, but I'm right on the fence.
I think he'll end with 600 plus goals, and I think that's what'll get him in eventually. I think he signed the 4-year deal before the season started. He should get close to 600 if he's just at 25 goal pace, which he scored his 9th of the season today. Can I sneak one more in? I just wanted to do it real quick. Buy or sell. This was going to be my other question, but buy or sell. Edmonton and or Florida will miss the playoffs this season. Buy or sell?
Sell.
Oh, I would sell. I think Edmonton will figure it out. Florida, they get Matthew Tkachuk back. I saw that video of Barkov. He doesn't even have a brace on. He's already training like a phenom. So I think Florida will figure it out. Obviously, it just shows you that you can have all the depth and people can rave about depth. And yeah, we have depth. We got depth. Yeah, guess what? Your depth is good because your top end guys are good. Once you lose your top end guys, suddenly your depth is still good, but it's not top end good. And that's what you're seeing in Florida. They don't have enough top end guys right now. And so when they get Tkachuk back though, they'll stay in the mix because the East has a lot of okay teams, but I'm going to sell. They'll both get in.
So I remember having a conversation with Bobby Holik once. We were driving to go see the Oshawa Generals play, and I was talking to him about why it worked out for him in New Jersey and not New York. And this goes back to your depth point, Greggs. He said, "Look, it's easy. If Bobby Holik is your third line center, we're going to win the Stanley Cup. If Bobby Holik is your first line center, Jeff, we're not going to win the Stanley Cup."
Bingo.
That is to Jason's point about, you can talk about depth. Your depth matters when your big boys are there. And then you can boast about Sammy Paulson on the third line for the Anaheim Ducks. That's why that works.
Awesome. Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks, Vic. Appreciate you filling in, man.
Thanks, bud.
It's awesome.
Thank you.
There you go. That's another edition of Buy or Sell, brought to you by Bet365. As we're recording this, the Anaheim Ducks, we talked about the Winnipeg Jets, and I think they're good, but hey, the Ducks got a lead on the Jets to start tonight. We'll see if that holds up. But
Did you see who scored? Did you see who scored on the power play? Leo Carlsson. Yeah, Seneke scored. Gauthier's got an assist. They're young guys. Troy Terry. Like, man, there is. If you're a fan of the Blackhawks, the Ducks, and the Sharks right now, you're pretty excited. Where you've got Bedard, obviously. You got Nazar. You got some young defensemen in Chicago. You look at obviously you got Celebrini. I think Will Smith's got 16 points already, so pretty solid player. Not a superstar, but pretty solid guy. I think they need another one or two there, but Anaheim's got a boatload of them. Carlsson, Cutter, Gauthier, man, Jackson Lacombe on the back end, Dostal in goal. Like I like a lot of that. Troy Terry's not an old player by any stretch of the imagination. Like the Ducks are going. They're not cup contender yet for me, but they are definitely a legit playoff contender in my eyes, and they look good. But Leo Carlsson, I think, is the player more and more as people start to see him and hear about him. They're going to be like, God, where'd this guy come from? Because he is a man-child and he is good. So here's what and you know who else looks great there? Is Chris Kreider.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the NHL doesn't do a comeback player of the year award. I wish they would. Something that, an award for veterans who, bam, just have fantastic seasons after, having a downturn in their career. Man, Kreider looks so I know that the idea was look, our power play stinks. Let's go get the best power play guy we can find. I know he's having a down season. I know he had a down season last year for the Rangers. But right now, if you're doing a comeback player of the year, it's Chris Kreider, right? I'm not missing this, right? If you're doing a comeback player, again, early as we are, 16 games in, it's Chris Kreider, right?
It's hard to think of someone else. Yeah.
He would be, I mean, just off the top of my head here, he would be my guy. But you're right. If you're, and you mentioned Levshunov, he's playing really good too, right now. And that's great for them because they need more young stud defensemen on that blue line, in Chicago. This team looks fantastic for the future. So does San Jose, but man, it's tough when you start watching an Anaheim Ducks game. I don't know, there's some teams where I'm quick to bounce around on. It's okay, yeah, all right, I got enough. I got the gist. When you peel past the Anaheim Ducks game, it's speed bump. Nope, I'm going to watch a lot of this game right now. Not only are they good, but they're exciting good too. And fun to watch.
Yeah, they are. Awesome. Jeffrey, great pod, buddy. We appreciate it, man. We will chat with you next week, and should be a fun week in the National Hockey League. Congratulations to all those going into the Hockey Hall of Fame. I'm very much looking forward to the speeches and the laughs and the jokes and the video montages and everything. I love seeing it. You always learn stuff about all the players and builders that go in, and what a big moment for them and their families. So, and teammates and friends. I think they all enjoy it. So everybody there, have a great time, and we'll talk to you next Monday.
Hey, hockey fans, if you enjoyed that video, then make sure you hit the subscribe button right here on the Daily Faceoff YouTube. We have you covered for everything you need. Exclusive interviews on The Sheet with Jeff Marek, all the latest hockey news on Daily Faceoff Live, and you can always get your morning started with Johnny Lazarus and Colby Cohn on Morning Cup of Hockey. Don't miss a minute. Hit that subscribe button.